This is your Not So Critical update for Saturday, July 17th. Today, your privacy is compromised even worse than you thought. Blue check Twitter bots. Facial recognition failures. And now your hosts, Mike Sutton and Peter Lowe.
Some good stories in the rundown. You ready to get started, Peter?
Let's go.
So it's always a good way to start the show. And I think for the third week in a row, it's about to start thunderstorming right outside my office here.
Really?
I don't know what's up with that weather going on. We've been getting a ton of weather here where I am.
A ton of weather. I like it.
Isn't that how you measure weather? Like just a lot of
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the volume of it.
Sure.
Have you heard about the stuff that's happening in Germany lately?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Tons of flooding.
Pretty bad. A lot of people dead, and just some shocking videos, and valleys that are just completely flooded. There was one little mobile video that I saw, someone who took out their window, and their little street with all these cute little houses is just a torrent. It's incredible. It's like a river, and there was a whole skip that was tumbling down the river of their street. It was insane.
I appreciate at least that there seems to be some acknowledgement that it's related to global warming, which is more than we get in our news a lot of the times.
Really?
Here in the US.
Yeah, I think that would be hard to kind of deny, really. I mean, it's so extreme.
You might think so.
Yeah.
The US says, hold my beer.
Right. Someone pointed out on Twitter that Europe isn't known for the extreme weather, but it does have extreme weather, but it's because they're so far apart that usually there's only one or two in anybody's lifetime. So we have 20, 30 years to forget about it. But it's just happening more and more frequently now, and it's undeniably due to climate change. So pretty crazy.
Some of the heat that we've had on both the East and the West Coast, it's crazy. I'm so glad I'm not on the West Coast right now. But we've got lots of fun stuff to talk about. That's marginally less depressing than global warming.
Well, yeah, some of this, I don't know. Everything's just falling apart around us, isn't it? I mean,
we've got a lot of privacy articles today, and I don't know if it's falling apart, but certainly steadily chugging along. Yeah.
I think this is back to one of my old things. It's all about raising awareness of what's going on anyway. That we kind of know a bit more about the stuff that's happening behind the scenes. So, it's interesting, and
that's what we're going to try and look at today. Should we jump into an article?
Go for it.
So, on the surface, this seems somewhat interesting. Firefox announces SmartBlock 2.0 for private browsing. I went back and reread the article, and it is significantly underwhelming. Basically, the only change is that where they were blocking all of Facebook before, they now actually have relaxed that, so you can still use Facebook to log into certain websites, which is great. Like, I use websites that I use Facebook login for. I would be irritated if I couldn't access those websites because of other blocking. However, I mean, they loosened the restrictions, not tightened them. So is this better for private browsing? And what does this mean?
It's a usability update. The reason it's SmartBlock is that it doesn't just flat out block Facebook requests when you go to a website. It's smart, so it unblocks it when you're trying to log in and then reblocks it after that, so that you can actually use the Facebook login feature from different websites. I completely agree. It's very underwhelming. SmartBlock 2.0 as well. I mean, it makes me wonder what 1.0 was like. This didn't get a lot of press, which I'm not surprised about. it's a good step in the right direction. It's kind of what needs to happen for tracking blocking to be more acceptable to the general public, because these kind of usability changes are what people want. But I don't really know what makes it very smart, to be honest. And it's only Facebook as well. Like, I don't know. The name SmartBlock seems to imply that it's kind of like learning or something, or it figures things out. But it's, I think, a bit of an exaggeration here, because it's just a single site. Granted, it's Facebook, but yeah.
Well, they described that they partner with Disconnect, which is a Chrome plugin that I also use to block the social media sites from tracking you as you go page to page. The other single sign-on, is that what we would call this? Using Facebook to sign in?
Social login, I think it is called. Or
yeah,
something
social
like that.
log. Okay. Google, if you're a Gmail user, I use that pretty extensively, but I don't think that would be blocked by Disconnect normally, because even though it would block potentially the ad, well, it wouldn't even block the ad tracking, because Disconnect is primarily for social. You might use a tool like uBlock Origin, powered by Peter Lowe's server ad blocking list to block some of that other tracking. It just it only applies when you're in their, protected mode. It's I think it's like you said in the past, that people want that functionality, they just don't want to be tracked for it, and that's kind of what they're giving us here.
Yeah. So just to tell you something about my list in particular, right? So I have a list of domains that are related to ads or tracking. And uBlock Origin uses my list by default, but there's a lot of times where it breaks websites, because if you block a whole domain, you break stuff like this, like social login. And a lot of websites are tied to the functionality that's provided by trackers and stuff. It's horrible, but it's true. So there's a list that gets installed by default in uBlock Origin called the unbreak list, and it's a list of specific exceptions for different sites, where it just turns off my, it's what's called a bad filter rule. And it means that on this site, don't block the thing from my list because it breaks logins or something like that. And there's tons of them.
You spend a lot of time on privacy, tracking, blocking tracking specifically. Incognito mode is cool. Protected mode is cool. Like, you're not getting those cookies. Great. You could use uBlock Origin. You could use Disconnect. What do you find is like the best balance of user experience and, taking reasonable steps to preserve your own privacy?
For me, what's acceptable is if something breaks, then I just allow it. If it's something I really want. I'm a bit more militant than most people. When something breaks because of a tracker being blocked or something like that, it frustrates me enough that I usually find that somewhere else. If it's a news story, it's going to be on another site somewhere that isn't broken. But if I'm trying to like open a link in a newsletter, and I because of my own list have got the link tracking domain blocked, then I will just temporarily allow it. And it's a standard function, thing in uBlock Origin and most ad blockers that I know of. So it mystifies me when people complain about it, because it's like, it doesn't mystify me really, because but it is on the screen. It says, if you want to allow this, click here.
But to be fair, that uBlock Origin screen is kind of intimidating. I don't know. It feels so your options are allow temporarily or allow permanently. It tells you what's happening, but it feels very technical. It doesn't feel like it's clear. It's giving you the data. I don't feel like it gives a ton of context around like why that happened or what the implication of allowing it permanently or allowing it temporarily is. And I don't mean for this to turn into a review of uBlock Origin, certainly, but as you often say, making these choices is not always easy.
No, it's not. But I will tell you something. The guys, Raymond Hill, who develops uBlock Origin, is very responsive to any suggestions that people make. And if someone were to come up with a much better version of that block page, I think that there's a good chance that he would say, yep. And if he didn't accept it, he would tell you why. So go for it, redesign it.
I do not have any ideas. I just have a complaint.
Right.
Just problems,
Yeah.
no solutions. That's what you get from me.
It's I know what you mean though. It isn't like something you can very easily scan, but I don't know how to make it better either. So yeah.
So what's your stack? What do you use? Do you use Chrome? Do you use uBlock Origin? Do you use Disconnect? Like what are your go-to tools?
I have uBlock Origin with the stock lists. I have a few. Do you ever use the custom blocking feature in uBlock Origin? You can right-click something and then go to block element.
A little bit.
It's kind of handy. It can show you the CS elements. It's not for like an everyday user, but there's a few sites where I've just added some rules of my own. But that's it. That's all I do. And partly it's because I want to see when ads get through, because that means that my list isn't working and I can investigate them and add them to my list.
Okay.
But partly because I think that provides a really good level of protection. That I used to have Privacy Badger as well, and I've tried Disconnect Me, and I've tried the DuckDuckGo add-ons, and I've AdGuard. I have a lot of respect for those guys, and I think I would switch to them maybe. I know that they're really smart and they have make a lot of their stuff open source and they contribute to the community and stuff. But for me, uBlock Origin on its own is with the stock lists. I don't do any modification. That's it. I use this cloud sync thing. I used to use Chrome, and I still do for work, but I recently switched to Firefox as my default browser, and DuckDuckGo as my default search engine as well, which is an experience. It's pretty good, but it's not as good as Chrome, and there's a lot of the little tweaks. What it's shown me is that all the little tiny things that Google have done actually add up to quite a difference. Things like, I use Chrome a lot for converting between units because I work with you bloody Yanks. So when I'm calculating 20 degrees centigrade in Fahrenheit, it's easier to do it in Chrome on Google. But DuckDuckGo, if you put a !G at the end of your query, it just puts it in Google for you. So if it doesn't work in DuckDuckGo, then I just switch there. There's a few other little shortcuts, but no big deal. And for news, it's not as great, but yeah. Anyway, I could literally talk about this for the next hour, so you've got to shut me up at some point.
We'll get back to it, I'm sure. Okay, the next article here. What have we got? The industry that unmasks people at scale. I think this is your article.
Yeah, I wanted to put this in. This is really fascinating. It's basically an article on Vice about the people who de-anonymize the identifiers that are associated with your mobile and your ad tracking ID, and they're called MAIDs, the mobile advertising identification. And there's entire companies which are dedicated to getting all this data together, correlating it, cross-referencing it, and telling you who someone is based on their ID, which is not supposed to be allowed, but clearly it is possible. And it just, on the one hand, there's these companies that are saying, no, it's fine, it's all anonymized, pseudonymized, nobody can track you, whatever. And then on the other hand, there's an industry, there's companies charging a lot of money for this, and there are other people paying them for it, which is why the companies exist in the first place. It's
distributed data collection. Any one source is anonymized, but if you combine that with another source that has a way to share a key, then you have access to connect the data from both sides, which is exactly what's happening here. This is this is big data, right? This is how it works.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to necessarily be that complex. I mean, for example, right, in the UK, the NHS Digital had this thing about sharing medical records, and they said it's pseudonymized, and it's going to, there's no way to find out who the medical records are actually about. It's only going to be used for medical research and stuff, which is a load of bullshit. Because the horrible thing about it is the sensitive data. So let's say that you had someone attacked you on a given date, and it was public news, and then you went to the doctor because of the attack, and that all you have to do then is say, who was attacked around this area at this time or on this date, and what public records are there that correlate to this, and then you've got the person's name. It's you need two pieces of data to be able to de-anonymize this, and it's often very, very simple.
And specifically with respect to this article, they're talking about the MAIDs, which is it's not an anonymous identifier. It's a unique identifier for one specific person's phone.
Right.
And I would, it's not human. Well, it doesn't make sense if you just see it, like you wouldn't recognize who that is. But in a way, it's kind of like an email address, because that is my email address. This is my MAID. And if you can connect that to some other piece of information, that it's, I mean, I don't even know if it's legitimate to call it de-anonymizing. I don't think if you're linking it on an MAID that's anonymous at all. What you see in some marketing system is the email address could be truly anonymized. So instead of seeing the email address, they replace it with a key. If you have access to the algorithm that does that, you could potentially de-anonymize in that case. But here they're just using, it's almost, it's what do they call it? Security through obscurity more.
Yeah.
They just assume that nobody's going to recognize an MAID or be able to track it back to a specific person's phone. But if two companies collect MAIDs and one of them happens to have some other piece of personally identifiable information, then you just connect the dots very simply, and you have what we have now.
Yeah, exactly. And it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. It's deliberately working against people's preferences, and like it's snooping essentially. I mean, yeah, it's going through people's rubbish, and yeah.
I mean, there's both sides of it. I think, if somebody gets a hold of data sets and manipulates them, then okay, that's the game. I think if I was going to say, like, where the fault is, I would argue that it's in presenting an MAID as a anonymous piece of information. It's absolutely not.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. Yeah. I mean, yeah, do away with the ID in the first place. And that's what Apple are doing. They are turning off by default, and then people have to explicitly opt in with to let advertisers track people on iOS apps, and it's good. It's great. It's what should happen. Yeah. So hopefully other people will start doing that, but I feel I'm not hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, like, substitute social security number for MAID, and that's a similar issue, right? Like, you can't look at my social security number and know that it's me. But if you have access to that data set, it's trivial to figure that out.
Do you know what I think?
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, do you know what I think should happen? Is that we should give all companies an ID number, an anonymous ID number, ID. And then let's put all financial records, all of them, online, but just link to this anonymous ID. But it's fine, right? Because it's just nobody will be able to tell who it is at all.
Yeah, we've got
several
articles, I think, that touch on this idea of like what is given away in large data sets. And in this article, the one thing that really stood out to me, though, was Senator Wyden, who's a Democrat from Oregon, says, I have serious concerns that Americans' personal data is available to foreign governments that could use it to cause harm. And I thought, so he's introducing legislation to prevent foreign companies from purchasing this list from Americans. It doesn't say anything about the security concerns of the individuals, just the impact on national security, not the security concerns of the domestic government using this information, just foreign governments. So way to look out for yourself, I guess.
Yeah. I did. You know what? I didn't clock on that, but I think whatever makes privacy better is going to help. So, yes.
All right.
However, I'll take it.
Politicians. Moving forward.
All right. What have we got next? Okay, this is one of yours.
Yeah. This was. So this, we just talked about the ability to use large data sets to connect the dots. And I think that's really what this is saying. And they kind of set this up to say that Game developers have always been interested in how people play the games, but originally that meant, setting them up in a lab and recording it with a video camera or just directly observing them, because they didn't have at the time the ability to just collect through the system or across the network the number of data points that they could then. So what we see now, just with the sophistication of the systems and the sophistication of the games themselves, they can collect voice data, they can collect facial expressions and body language, they can collect physiological data like heart rate and skin conductance, eye tracking, keyboard typing behavior, cursor movements. Every action you take, they can collect multiple data points for, to the point, like not even game actions, just like if you're in front of your phone, or if you're
sorry, can I the one story I didn't put in here that actually I heard about recently was Amazon. They are planning to, and I'm not sure if this has been approved, but they're planning to measure people's sleep patterns based on the sound that can be recorded by the Alexa. So they can figure out how you're sleeping based on like it's ridiculous.
Absolutely. Well, and they talk about, like, with all this physiological data that they are able to collect, and your actual like behavior in the game, they can figure out your cultural background. They can figure out a lot of times different skills and abilities you have, like sports, languages. How good are you at math? Do you play chess? They can get your geographical origin. They can, I don't want to say necessarily diagnose mental health, but they can kind of tell if you're autistic, if you have depression, if you have PTSD. They can see how well rested you are, if your reflexes are, what they normally are, or if they're slowed down, your socioeconomic status.
Amazing.
Somehow heighten weight using the accelerometers, eating and drinking movements, your current location. This is.
So is this over the line for you? You're always like, okay, if the data's available, they can do what they like with it.
Well, so then what closes this all together is that you've purchased this game, you've registered this game, so they also have your email address, your billing information. So they could say, hey, here's someone who's playing a game. They play sports, but maybe they're a little not sleeping so well, so let's show them an energy drink ad. Like, it's oh man, it's I don't know. But like, I wear my smartwatch when I exercise. It tracks every step. I'm GPS tracked at every moment. I upload it to three different online tracking services for reporting and analysis. It tracks my sleep, my heart rate. I don't think it has a microphone, but I've got my phone nearby all the time anyway. So, I mean, again, the capability is startling. I think it's a little eye-opening to see just how bad it really is. I don't know that, like, I would still play video games. I think I am still in that same category. Like, okay. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Okay, it is remarkable, and it's funny to see you react like that, because when I've said that about like online activity, you're like, yeah, but I know that's happening already. But now you read a paper about happening in games and the reach it has. It's interesting to see you being surprised, but that's how other people feel about the other stuff.
Yeah, but I guess I wouldn't say surprised. I don't know. Like, we know they're doing all these things. I put what it was at the Kinect. I don't know if they're still out there doing anything, or like the Wii. Maybe Wii's a different case, but the Kinect sensor, certainly, microphone, camera, mapping your environment, on video all the time, on typically, even if you're not gaming, it's watching the room. And a lot of this, I'm sure, with like voice analysis, vocal intonation, shopping habits, same thing, Alexa comes up all the time. So not surprised, but I guess almost impressed by how comprehensive it actually is. Like, it's just incredible.
It is very impressive, and actually, one side of me loves the whole thing. I really do. I love this, the stats and the data, and I can imagine it being like this Star Trek future where the everything is just taken care of for you by these supercomputers.
Or like, was Wall-E the movie where society had gotten to the point where they just move around in floating wheelchairs, having all of their needs? I think it's nice to see a utopian depiction of the future versus all these downer movies that like, give me my wheelchair, give me my food.
I think I'd be into that though. I think I would do that. Like if it in the Matrix, I would take the, which one was it? I'd take the blue pill. I would just like plug me back in. I'm happy to be a battery for you alien guys. Just set me up with like a nice place to live and a hot partner, and I'm good. Yeah.
Especially if you know what's on the other side.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah. But the thing, okay, just to get back to the story quickly, the thing about it is, right, and this is the unfulfilled promise of all this data that people are sucking up and storing and looking at, and they can do all these fancy things, but is it helping them sell stuff? Are the ads actually better and more effective?
Well, I would imagine their first priority is making sure people engage with the game more.
Okay, but that's
and
fine.
I probably won't even ask, but did you watch Social Dilemma?
No, not yet. Like, I do have the sticky. It's right. The sticky is right on the wall, right
Good.
there.
It's working great. But like this is this is kind of the point they make in the Social Dilemma is these tools are engineered. The timing, the way the alerts are structured, is it a visual alert or an audio alert? When does it pop up? To just get that next moment of engagement, make you stay engaged just a little bit longer, make you check in one more time. And I imagine that's where this came from, is how do we make our games more engaging? How do we get people to play more often? How do we get people to play for longer? But the information, they've got to be using the ad information for ad targeting. That would be certainly
also, who are they selling it to? That's what I want to know. Who else has got their hands on this data?
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
Because we always think about like, I always think my initial thought is, well, they're taking this data and it sucks. Well, that's really terrible that they know all the stuff about me. But now, so is anybody else that they sell it to, and not just like, it's not just like a current issue. It's what happens when this company gets bought by, like Oculus was a great company, and then they got bought by Facebook, and now it's just, I can't trust them at all, right? Same with anybody else. Whenever you look in the privacy policy, I'm sure you do this every day, to check what third parties they share data with.
Obviously.
Yeah, you always got to look for a clause about what happens if they get taken over, because every company, every startup is looking for an exit, right? They're always trying to get sold or trying to get bought. So, and usually by some big faceless corporation like Facebook or Google, who don't give a shit about your privacy.
I think this is interesting also because it's not just data about you that could be used for targeting. It's also a lot of data about your current state. What's happening to me right now? What am I doing right now? So feasibly, an ad could, I could get an alert on my phone that says, hey, this thing that's in your shopping cart is for sale, because the video game sensed that I was at this moment maybe more prone to make a purchase and less likely to have my defenses up. And then that's powerful information. I assume all society is marching towards that dystopian future.
It's 100% is.
How could it turn out any other way?
No, absolutely.
But at least
people are going to be surprised when it does happen.
I know. At least we've got Senator Wyden looking out for the national interests. But
yeah, he's got you covered. It's the climate change of the privacy world. That's what it is.
That's about what it feels like. At least the corporations are doing well. It lets the manufacturers make more money, And that's really what's important here, isn't it, Peter?
Well, in the end,
Think about the
because
corporations.
in the free market, the corporations need to help the consumers. Otherwise, they won't do well. That's the theory. That's it, right?
That's what the libertarians would have us believe. I'm not sure when that part of it starts actually happening.
Yeah. Well, just watch this space, right?
Yeah. So the argument would be, if people didn't want to be tracked and targeted and manipulated by the game that they were playing, then they just wouldn't play that game. They would buy some other game. What's the problem? The market takes care of itself. Oh boy, don't get me started.
Okay.
All right, let's do this one. I think this is you again.
Yeah, I mean, I had one. Basically, what this is that Ring, the doorbell, the smart doorbell that connects with your phone and lets you see who's at your front door or wherever. They're rolling out end-to-end encryption, which means that even Ring won't be able to snoop on the connection between the doorbell and your phone. So when you're looking at a video of me knocking on your door, nobody else will be able to see that video. So there was a couple of points I wanted to make about this. The first thing is that it's opt-in. And I genuinely don't know why that is the case. Why would it ever be opt-out? Why isn't it just on by default? In what scenario would you want to allow anyone else to see that video? I mean, you could maybe share it with like your family or whoever else is in the house, but I just don't get it. Like as an opt-in feature, what? I don't know. It's so bonkers.
So did you say that the only people who would be watching if it wasn't encrypted?
Ring, the police. Ring famously share their data with the police. So the police have access to the network of doorbell cameras that are in certain neighborhoods.
So that could be their incentive. They could say like, we know our customers want this, blah, blah, blah. The market will decide. But we really kind of like doing this other thing on the side. So let's do it, but not make it easy.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's it. I mean, obviously from the company's point of view, that I know why it's opt-in, but from a practical, they're implementing it, they're adding end-to-end encryption, but they're not actually, it's so doing lip service to like, so that they can just say, oh, no, we have privacy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they can put it on their website now. Mission accomplished.
Yeah. Opt-in. Why? I just don't get it. Why isn't it just on? Why doesn't that just happen? And then there's some big warning that says, hey, you're about to share this with someone else. It's not. It's totally
and just for clarity, it doesn't apply to their battery-powered video doorbells.
Oh, I missed that bit. Of course, because there's that huge difference between the battery-powered ones. The battery-powered ones, you wouldn't expect them to be private, would you? Because batteries.
Batteries, I mean, there could be some technical limitation there. I don't know. That distinction doesn't feel quite so arbitrary to me. It could totally still be, but
I mean, it's probably like they've done it really badly, and the encryption just takes a lot of CPU, and it's like drains the battery a lot quicker, which is just horrible. Like, come on, it's 2021, you know.
But you do have to check their website for the list of doorbells that this applies to see if a specific doorbell does it or not.
Yeah, good luck if you've got
one. But we've talked about this several times with the Internet of Things vulnerabilities, the video doorbells, obviously.
I think I know which story you're going to bring up next.
All right, I'm still going to go through my introduction. Sorry, and I did a question about this on my trivia show recently of devices that have been hacked, and they include the video doorbells, the light bulbs, the Hue smart lights, vacuums, anything that the voice activated vacuums or vacuums that can be controlled by Alexa. Some of those have microphones in them, so there have been attacks where the microphone is used to eavesdrop. Baby monitors, really anything that can interact with Alexa, if this then that. Anything that can be controlled by a phone or from a web browser. And then the article that you're foreshadowing, I didn't actually have the thing up. You cut the link out of the rundown, I noticed.
I'm sorry, yeah.
But that sex toys, Bluetooth
Yes.
operated sex toys, because you can control them from the phone, can be hacked. And I mean, I've heard of biohacking, but I think this takes it to a whole new level. But also really highlights that if you're not careful, you can be penetrated many different ways.
You're such a child, Mike. Honestly, I kind of expected better of you, Mike. I genuinely thought that perhaps you could treat this as a serious subject, but
oh no, it's very serious. Was it worth the walk? Did I? It was a good setup for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're yeah.
I try to make it a journey through this story.
Yeah, so that we all arrive at the same time.
Yeah, I'm sure this will not be the first or the last time we talk about the Internet of Things.
It was actually a thing a while back. Actually, there was I think it was like a ransomware group that were holding, what are they called? The lockable jock straps. There's a term for this. It's slipped my mind. But yeah, they couldn't be unlocked. If you put it on, they got hacked, and then you couldn't take them off because, ransomware. And that's pretty surprising or unsurprising in lots of ways.
Just how they really had you by the balls on that one.
The short and curlies, yeah. Is that what? Yeah. Do you have that phrase in the?
Mm-hmm.
They have you by the short and curlies. Yeah,
heard it.
My granddad used to say that all the time. Anyway, that's probably not all the time.
Really? How does that come up so often?
I don't know. Maybe it's just stuck in my mind. I think probably that's the case. Come on, man.
All right.
Next story. Yeah. Here we go.
Who was this? Was this you again?
Actually, you. Oh, maybe it was me. Yeah. It's kind of a puff piece, though. I'll be honest.
Oh yeah.
This particular article, the headline is good. Why respecting customer privacy is good for business. I mean, it doesn't really have any details about why it's good for business. It's just mentioning a couple of things that are happening. And funnily enough, it talks about the Digital Advertising Alliance opt-out tool.
Yes, I saw that also.
Which, as we have discussed before, is a load of rubbish. And yeah.
Yeah, we just had that article from Aaron Sankin that we talked about last week. And I don't know that I was like totally favorable, but did effectively point out that this thing doesn't work. And here they used it as an example of how great the industry is and how easy it is to do this thing.
Right, which is exactly what it was trying to do. The DAA opt-out thing is so it can be inserted into articles like this about, hey, the industry's acting ethically and doing really well. And if you want to opt out, you just click a button. Boom. Problem solved.
The article makes a weird argument. It says that there is a benefit to business. It's good, respecting customer privacy is good for business. And they mentioned this DAA thing in the context of, hey, if you do this, you can put their badge on your website and it'll give you all this credibility. Okay. And then the other example was how Zoho had chosen to do this. But even in that case, they said, well, we don't really market that we do this, but all of our customers know that we do it and they appreciate it. And that's what builds our culture. So on one hand, they're saying it's good for your business, but then they don't, like you said, they don't really build that argument beyond just to say, like, you can get a badge and here's somebody who did it.
Yeah, it's kind of a puff piece. I saw the headline and thought, oh, maybe this is going to be really good. And it's going to point out that, privacy is actually a selling point these days. And companies like DuckDuckGo, who got $100 million in investment last year, that's, this is becoming a thing that you can actually all these privacy preserving analytics tools and email services and marketing tools and just everything where their privacy is a reason that people choose them. But no, it was just rubbish. It's terrible.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. It's because you can do really interesting marketing that's behavior based and not.
Yeah.
Even if you set aside the idea of like anonymized data where you're still tracking somebody, but you don't even know specifically who they are because it's anonymized. If you didn't even do that, just based on click paths and the timing and what content are they consuming, you could do some really interesting creative marketing. But what's the so in the case of Zoho, is somebody gonna buy Zoho? Like, how's that going to play into somebody's buying decision? If I need a tool like Zoho, am I going to think like, yeah, I could use them, but I don't really like their marketing privacy policies, so maybe I'll look for someplace else?
Some people might, though. Some people like me might do that. I might do that. I don't have a need for Zoho right now, but if I was looking for people, I know, like, I consciously avoid some websites because I know that their tracking is just crazy. Anything published by Condé Nast has got like 280 trackers behind it. Spotify, I don't know, a ton of things. Just because I know that they're horrendous. So I will lean towards other things. It's not usually it's not the like deciding factor, but it will help me push me towards another direction.
I feel like having a policy or trying to work only with companies who aren't tracking you online would be like saying I'm not ever going to buy, I'm only going to buy non-GMO food.
Yeah, well,
like,
yeah.
You could do it and good luck with that. But
it would make life very difficult. But yeah, how principled are you exactly? I don't know. I'm not. I mean, I care about it, but not that much.
Yeah, it's
I just want to mention
hence my resignation.
You know that you said it, but there's a lot of interesting ways that you can do ads that are not like, they're not using all this tracking data. That's what Brave is all about. So Brave, the browser, they have their own ad network and they do it without tracking. And they have this BAT thing, which is the attention tokens, Brave attention tokens, where you can like tip websites and stuff. And if the owner of the website is registered, then they get the little credit and they can actually use it to buy things. It's quite cool. And they are very serious about privacy, but they are trying to do it. Their motto, well, I don't think it's quite their motto, but I've heard someone from the company say they want to can't be evil instead of Google's old phrase, don't be evil,
right?
Which has gone, who knows?
How quaint.
Yes. Oh, those are the days. How young and free we were. Yeah. But there's this can't be evil. They want to engineer it so that the data just isn't there, and there's nothing to abuse, which is how it should be, really. And it's great. I love it. They're still making money. It's a bit harder.
I wonder how it works though. Like, what's the there's some marketing benefit. Some people like you are going to think like, oh yeah, I like that they're doing that. I'm more likely to buy from them than from somebody else. Okay. And I'm just having a hard time seeing the economic argument for not doing that. It feels like unilateral disarmament to say like, we're not going to track anymore. Yeah, it's principled. Yeah, it could be really interesting. It could be super effective or as effective. I don't know if it could be as effective.
Okay.
But why?
Well, couple of good reasons that have come about in the last few years.
I'm not convinced. Let's move on. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Get on my little soapbox there. No, regulation is the big one. Because things like GDPR and the CCPA and all the states in the US that are implementing, even China is talking about preventing this kind of stuff. So if you want to be prepared for the regulation, which is coming, and the fines are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, then it's a good thing to start out. that's the biggest one. The second thing is that it doesn't really work, and all these hyper-targeted ads are not very effective actually. So they're spending a lot of money on advertising and product placement, or not product placement. Sorry, that's a bad example. But like on this ad tech, which just doesn't work.
Are you referring to the Facebook article that you shared that said the internal managers said that their targeting doesn't work?
That's one of them, but there's also that happened with LinkedIn as well. There was a big lie where one of the ex-managers, I think it was an ex-manager, a memo was released that their ad figures are completely off, and the targeting's just not working, not effective. And there's people who have done the experiment of like, okay, let everything track me. It's a horrendous experience, of course. Don't block anything, and then do you see more relevant ads? Are they actually things that you really want to buy? Are you missing out if you turn all that shit off?
I mean, I can think of a case right now where I'm into triathlon. I went to the website of a company, Wahoo, makes indoor trainers, they make power meters, they make a bunch of cycling related equipment. And
Right.
Then later on Facebook got an ad for equipment out of their refurbished program. And I thought that was really interesting. It was totally relevant. I clicked on it.
Right.
And I didn't make a purchase on that, but it is very tempting to me, and I'm glad that I saw that. Like, I would say yes, that was a case where it made my life better.
I think they don't need these vast amounts of data to be able to do that kind of targeting. That you can do contextual targeting, where if you're looking at stuff about triathlons, then you see the Wahoo ads. Or if you, I don't know. I just think it's unnecessary. But hey,
yeah, you can do effective marketing without it, I'm sure. To the effectiveness vis-a-vis the Facebook and LinkedIn articles, because you shared that article, and what I took away from it was not necessarily that customized ads don't work, but that their targeting specifically didn't work. They were saying you could filter by this category, but choosing that category didn't really get you what you thought you were targeting.
Oh, okay.
Was how I read it.
That's okay. I mean, why not though? I don't think it's a technical failure, is it? I mean, or is it just their crap? They've got so much money and so many smart people working for them.
It's really interesting. So they let you target, for example, by business owners or people who make a certain amount of revenue, but you never tell Facebook that. So in a way, it almost goes back to the video game scenario. Like, they're looking at all the different signals and trying to make assumptions about you. So based on the level of detail they shared, which wasn't a lot, those were the targeting options that I had in mind. Just because, like, business owner, for example, everybody who's in a MLM could show up as a business owner, but that's not who I'm targeting if I'm targeting business owners for a B2B service. And I think that maybe cases like that could be where they're seeing that kind of targeting is not very effective.
Yeah, I don't know. I might have to go back and reread that because but it's another one of those topics where you need to kind of really dive in. I was going to say deep dive into the articles and the research that's been done on it, and look at these menus and then kind of memos. Sorry, and then you can actually make a properly informed decision. But it's actually quite a complex area, and I have to confess I don't know enough about the specifics. So yeah,
I think contextual marketing could be effective, but personal marketing that clearly is targeted and personalized for me, I have seen also be very effective.
Okay, but then I think it should be opt-in if you really want that.
Opt in to not being tracked.
No, opt-in.
Deal. Okay, well, that's perfect setup for the next story. So I also looked at this article called "The Myth of Individual Control." And basically what they're saying is that because there are so many obstacles to effectively managing control of my personal information for myself, that it makes it essentially ineffective. And things from, you mentioned GDPR, the laws are inconsistent across jurisdictions. The enforcement is inconsistent and in some case non-existent. The process is confusing and non-standard, so it could take a lot of time to understand it. You don't really know what you're choosing or not choosing. It can feel overwhelming. There's a lack of transparency. Even companies who are trying to follow the laws don't totally understand them, and if what they're doing is the same as other companies, or are they doing it correctly? And the bottom line is they're saying that this opt-out model or opt-in model or whatever isn't really effective because of all these contributing factors. What say you?
Yes, I completely agree, and I think that's fairly understandable. I mean, it is complicated for everybody involved, and that's why I think that it should be, the default should be opt-in to tracking and opt-in to targeted advertising and an opt-in to it. I think it's kind of like a social situation where when you're in a group of people, the default is that nobody knows anything about you, and it's only what they observe about you. And then you get to choose whether you want to share that you've got a kid, or that you've hit, how old are you now? Or you've hit 25 for the
I'm older than 25
time. Okay, all right, whatever. I'm just saying, like, or that you like the color purple, or that your favorite band is the Spice Girls, or whatever. You get to disclose that information to other people, and you're in control. I mean, obviously there's some bits. It's kind of like the IP address. When you go to a website and it knows your IP, that's fair. That's kind of just, you can't really prevent that, and it's okay. But yeah, it's like a social situation, and it's tricky in real life to judge what's okay to share about yourself, and who what kind of impact is that going to have. If you tell people that you went to private school, then that might influence how they treat you. So a lot of people won't choose to share it, and some people will. But there's no like rules for it. It's social etiquette. It's interaction with other human beings, which is complicated. So,
and I think that's those are all good points. That's totally true. And clearly there are cases where you have to share information if you're trying to do make a purchase online or something like that. You have to provide personal information, geo information, billing information.
Yeah.
Well, so the conclusion, I guess I would say, was weak. Right? So their conclusion was, don't remove individual control. That's important. You have to have that, even though it's ineffective for all these reasons we just said. And then, we need better laws and regulations, and maybe corporations should do a better job of policing themselves. Ugh, please.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah, no, so just to be clear to anybody who is listening, I didn't read this because I didn't have time. It seems like a really interesting paper rather. But really? That's what they got to?
Yeah, and I'll share it. But if we come down to, and they elaborate on all these different reasons that they touched on. So, I thought I was sharing the article again there. Where did we get to? Proposed solutions. Yeah, so don't remove it, but laws and corporate culture, like, so going back to the last article, like, okay, it could be a competitive advantage, it could be a good idea, but why am I gonna spend the money, put the time into doing it? It just, again, it feels like unilateral disarmament, and even the incentives of the lawmakers are going to be corrupted by the corporations who want to keep doing this. And we saw from the previous article, their interest is protecting themselves and national security, not protecting the citizens, which, you know, we see quite often here in this country. So I don't love it.
Yeah, I don't feel fully informed about the article to be able to comment on it, but it is complicated, and I think the proposed solution is perhaps, I think maybe there's some influence from they're trying to be too reasonable. I saw another debate on the Twitters lately, and there's a thing called well, it's a privacy control thing, and Brave ships with this by default, and there's no off switch. You can't decide, you can't opt in, turn it off, basically. And someone asked, oh, I see that it's black, you know, you've made it really black and white here, but privacy is a spectrum. There's a usability on the one hand, and then there's privacy in the companies, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then the response from someone was, yeah, you're right, they're totally right, it is a spectrum. My response was like, well, maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe it should just be like it is private by default, and that's it. The tracking just doesn't happen. So maybe people need to like we talked. Well, I said it was like the climate change of data tracking, right? And the reason that climate change has continued to happen is people just didn't go, you know what? The Earth is dying. We need to stop burning fossil fuels and actually start relying on the sun and everything. Like if that happened a lot more harshly, a lot earlier, then I don't know. Maybe I'm being naive and wishful.
Well, I think what's similar though is that individual people have been saying that, have said that very loudly. Who's not on board with that is the corporations who are making piles and piles and piles of money from burning down the environment or from collecting detailed targeting information from all of their users, millions of data points an hour on some video game that you're playing when you think you're just, you know, in your underwear on the couch, and
they probably know that you're in your underwear as well. They could.
Well,
they
tracked
tell.
the purchase the year ago, so they do know.
Right.
All right, let's
correlate that to the how frequently that you reorder them and how much wear they get.
Yeah, based on your eating habits and exercise routines, which they also know all about. It's it's kind of eye-opening. I hear you, but they make tons of money from it. They pay the politicians who make the laws, and who's representing you. So go ahead, yell and scream and shout, and see what happens. Dystopian future.
Such happy thoughts.
I know. That's why you watch this show, for my uplifting perspective on life. We're all doomed.
For the next time, you need to redo the intro and just be the robot's going to be really depressed, like. Well, today we're talking about the dystopian future. It's like Marvin the Paranoid Android.
That was actually the first draft of the robot, was exactly that, a depressed robot. Yeah. Wasn't there something? Was that from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Did they have some depressed robot? Is that what you were just referencing? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, Marvin the Paranoid Android.
Yeah.
Look at me. Brain the size of a planet, and they want me to open the door for them. Yeah. That was the original idea. I didn't think I could pull it off effectively though. So we'll talk about it. Maybe he'll. No, I mean, please let's not do that.
Oh no,
it's the happy part of the show. It's the one.
No, you already convinced me. I'm in. Lightning and thunder behind him.
just breaks down.
All right, this should be a little more fun. What do we got here?
This is actually quite interesting. So it's a post that some analysis some people did about a botnet on Twitter, and they're all the amazing thing is all these bots are verified accounts, and they only have a few hundred followers each, or about 1,000 followers each, which is a really tiny number to have an account actually with the blue tick. And it's got a little bit more detail here, but the fascinating thing is I mean, the only conclusion I can come to is that there is an insider in Twitter which is verifying the accounts. Apparently, how it works is that there's an AI. You submit your account for verification, and there's a certain AI that kind of pre-approves or pre-rejects your application, and then a human. This is what I've read. A human then verifies it, like they actually say yes, this person is real, and they can so it's not totally automated, but I can see the first bit being gamed. But then someone at some point has gone, yep. And there's a botnet now with the blue tick. So I don't know what they're really using it for. Apparently, a lot of the accounts didn't have any tweets yet. But the other fascinating part about it was, can you show those the profile photos? This is brilliant. So all the profile photos have they're not real people. And there's 160 women, 169 cats, and 183 anime pics, some waifus, and that's brilliant. That's like that's what AI should be used for. Fake botnet accounts on Twitter.
Yeah. And then here was the bigger picture of all of them.
Yeah.
And wow, were these all for the blue check bot?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the kind of question where as soon as you answer, I think I know the answer, and then as soon as you ask me, I'm instantly unsure of myself. Maybe.
So what's the? I'm not like a huge Twitter user, so why would I do this?
For verified accounts, it's a big deal. It's like it really kind of gives the account some authenticity. It's from a known person who's got some kind of influence in the world that lots of other people can verify, or Twitter have verified.
So if somebody used this to tweet whatever, it would have more credibility just by the fact that they're a blue check.
Yeah, exactly.
Blue checked account.
That's yeah. I think there's the same thing on like Facebook and stuff. I don't really use Facebook, but other social networks have the same concept. The blue tick.
I don't know what that would be on Facebook.
Instagram, is it? I don't know. I'm not down with the kids these days with the
Nice.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks.
Let me get a better screenshot. All right.
You keep threatening me with recording some of the stuff that we go through before the sound checks. Just so you guys know, Mike always asks me to do a sound check, and I'm always saying that I'm like I don't know, an advanced AI that's come to Earth to plant myself in the whatever, just some rubbish. And he keeps going, I wish I recorded that. One of these days I'm going to find out that you've actually gone through with it. Yeah. But back to the story about the botnet thing. I think there's an insider at Twitter who's getting paid to approve verified account applications, which is kind of cool. I love the corporate espionage. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like it would be a big story. How would nobody know that, though?
Well,
has there been any actual reporting on this?
Well, this Twitter thread.
This is the reporting?
Yeah.
But this person doesn't have a blue check mark. How do I know I can trust them? I don't know. Who is Conspirator Norteño?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Anyway, I discount the entire story now. If Anla Mislar had shared this tweet, I'd be more impressed. Or Rabia Ozel. They seem more trustworthy.
Oh, Rabbit, yeah, great guy. Girl, cat.
All right. Anything else on that?
No, that's it.
All right, one more. And this is not fun.
No, but yeah. This is it's horrible.
It's hard. So there's a known bias for facial recognition, or I guess I would say facial recognition is notoriously bad at minorities, specifically Black people. the excuse that I've heard in the past is that it's because the AI, when it's being developed, is being trained by primarily by white or Asian people. I'm not totally sure I buy that, because then it just sounds more like machine learning than AI, which maybe it is. But even still,
Well,
I
machine
don't
learning is
get
just
the
a form of
bias.
AI. Machine learning is just a form of AI, and AI has to learn from something. So yeah, the initial training models, the training data sets are usually have fewer black people in them, or fewer colored people, and that means that they're not as accurate. So
It still puzzles me why they would have such a huge discrepancy. But it's well documented. I mean, going back to 2019 big article in the New York Post about a federal study that proved this is a thing. And so this story about a guy who was wrongfully arrested because of this misidentification by facial recognition software led to another one and
yeah,
another one. And
yeah,
it's just I think what annoys me about it so much is, like, they talk in the article about how even once the police and prosecutors start to see that, like, maybe that's the case, they still forge ahead with the prosecution. Like, do you have
yeah.
individual judgment? Like, you can't think for yourself in any way? Why did you do an investigation? Like, it's
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. And I guess so the software that does the facial recognition, I'm sure has no racist intent, right? It is amoral. It's just, doing what it does, and maybe it does it well, maybe it does it poorly. I have to imagine, though, that the police so readily accept it as, oh, I don't know, this is what the computer told me, so I'm doing it, that there has to
Yeah,
be racial bias there.
I think you're completely right. I don't really have a whole lot to say on this. It's rather depressing, and it's not just the data sets as well. I mean, it's it's the tweaks that are made to make it more accurate are focused on white people. So they will do things like, I don't know, for a particular set of eyes, it'll be able to recognize particular curves, and those are different people of color, and all this kind of like ways of making the technology more accurate don't focus on a spectrum of different types of people, and it's sad. And yeah, there you go.
Is it so? These people all do roughly look the same, right? Just at a glance, nobody really stands out. Very similar, like a kind of relatively narrow range of skin complexion and hair color. Um, if only there was some place where there was a giant database of images that could be used for training AI like that. I don't know.
But the problem with that is that if you do just take a random sample, there is a lower percentage of colored people in the general population usually, right? So if you just took everybody in everybody in the UK, you would have less data to train. So therefore, it will probably be less accurate. And what happens is that because there are more white people, the techniques which are used to developed to make it more accurate focus on white people, because then your software appears to be more effective overall. It's racist in that it's not considering everybody equal. And the only way to make it equal is to adjust the stuff at the beginning. You have to have this, you have to deliberately remove the bias, because otherwise it's going to be there.
But there aren't enough photographs of Black people and other minorities
Yeah.
available online that you could create a set of images for that.
No, I don't think it's. Yeah, you're right. You're right. But it's not like, it's not the fact that there isn't enough there. It's the fact that it wasn't chosen and that nobody considered it at the beginning. That's the systemic racism, the unconscious bias that happens. So
Yeah, and I guess
and
interestingly,
it's a really
critical race theory is like something everybody's up in arms about, but basically that's a similar idea, looking at how the laws have evolved based on assumptions about race, and just recognizing if and where that happened. Not even really getting to like, what do you do about it? But in this case, I mean, geez, fix your facial recognition software already.
Yeah, there's a part of the scary thing for me is that it's happening on a more subtle level all the time in other places. These are the ones that make it to the headlines, but there's other things which you don't see. I mean, I can imagine like people's insurance premiums being higher, or ads that get targeted to you might take that into account. That kind of stuff where it's not so obvious because you know, AI and these systems are being used all over the place. And yeah, this is why I don't like this article, is because literally the most, not literally, it's just makes me so frustrated. I can't do anything about it myself, but I don't know. I don't know what to do.
I mean, there's the technical side of it, but then there's also how you use it. Like, if this is your only piece of data, do an investigation.
Oh God, yeah, that's
don't
yeah,
arrest
yeah,
the
yeah,
guy
so
just like,
right.
oh, I don't know, the computer said he's the guy, so what do we do?
Yeah.
I guess the investigation case closed.
Yeah, right.
What are you doing?
That's the dystopian future where
man,
the machines that we get robot judges where their decision is final.
I know. All right. Well, we're probably. Oh man, we could be over an hour now. We usually end up right about an hour, so I think this has been working really well. How many times have we done this? This is the fourth show now, right?
Fourth show, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been really good. I think I'm going to propose that we rename the podcast to Privacy and Paranoia, though, because I think that seems to be what we are trending towards.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a Twitter poll up, and the results are going to be final. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Peter, how did you vote 17 times? 25 blue check counts voted in Peter's favor. How did that happen?
And 18 cats.
That's crazy.
Very similar looking cats also voted. Yeah.
That's funny. But people, I mean, people have commented, people have followed us. I think we're getting a little traction here. If you enjoy the show, definitely please help us out and subscribe to the channel, like the video. If we change the name, I guess you'll still get notified of that. I don't know if we'll do that, but I do think we should talk about it, because I think my resistance to the idea of I think privacy and paranoia encapsulates my resistance, if there is any, in that it seems like such a short jump from how do I not be tracked online to I need to wear LED glasses to prevent my face from being seen on cameras, and then a tinfoil hat is like step 3. And
yeah,
like that, it's like, oh yeah, like I get it, okay. You're paranoid, and they'll say like, no, there's reasons you got to do it this because of this and this. Like, okay, I get it, but not buying it.
You're not buying. Okay, I've got some work to do. Clearly,
Peter's gonna show up next time and just like have a bright light in place of his face because of the LED lights on both sides of the.
Here we go.
I don't know if that makes it more private, but weirder for sure. You just freaked somebody out. They thought you were looking at them through the TV.
Yeah, Ben,
TV.
I'm watching you.
Computer monitor, whatever. Yeah, this is fun. Let's do it again next week.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mike.
Find some more stories. Keep this privacy thing going. All right, everybody have a great week. Like and subscribe.
I'm gonna go cry myself to sleep tonight. Trying to forget about all these
awesome selection of stories that we had today.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to make a point of trying to find something fun to end the show on next time.
Yeah, we wasted our sex toy article too early. Kind of blew our load earlier in the show.
We wasted the sex toy article.
Yeah.
Thank you and good night.